Make it work.
Hello, I am Space Ghost. Welcome to my show. Joining us on this program will be motivational speaker and talk show host Susan Powder and comedian Kevin Meaney. Please say hello to the band, Zorak and the original Way Out.
See, first I had my camera too big. Y'all can hear me right? First I had my camera too big, and I had to shrink it like the pool water was cold, and then like, and I don't know, you couldn't hear me, but we hear, man. We hear, man. What's up? What's good? What's happening?
Before we begin, I'd just like to point out to our viewers that although it may
Crime
seem
Dog,
like the ghost
aka
planet
Scruffy
behind me
McGee,
is
Scruff
really
Patterson,
close, it's
Scruff
actually
Johnson,
millions and millions of miles away.
Here with the good brother.
So don't worry, we're
Here
not
with
going
the
to
good
run
brother,
into it or anything.
Barry J 6'7", 6 foot 7.
Damage report.
What's good? What's poppin'? What's happening? This is 33, man. Welcome to level 33.
Got to do. Stop fitting.
Zero. Obligations to anything resembling professional, as you can see. Once we finally got our shite together and walked in this mug, walking in obvious. What's happening? What's good with you, man? It's been a little minute.
Man, you know what? This is taking it one day at a time.
They're gonna die.
New World servers crashed a little earlier, but things is good, man. Battlefield is not
My
doing
first
well,
guest is on a mission
outside
to
of that,
stop the insanity. Please
I'm
welcome
doing all right.
Susan Powder.
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I mean,
A little bit of salt would be
pray for
good.
me.
Hello, Susan. Susan?
I don't usually drive my
Baltar,
sorrows
what's she
on
doing?
She's eating pasta salad.
And,
Perhaps
as you probably
she
know,
saw
if
your
you've been here
face and
back when
decided
I
to
was on my
split
Saki
Space
kid,
Ghost.
it's an acquired
Zorak,
taste.
just remember who has
If I
the
could acquire
organ man
taste,
on their
I would
speed dial.
enjoy it.
Oh, yeah?
I figured there was something I was doing
Susan's
wrong with
back.
Saki, and as it turns
Susan,
out,
welcome to the show. I take much pleasure in knowing you.
Mucho gusto en
I'm
conocerte.
starting to understand.
Tell us, who are you really?
Get it.
What's your secret identity?
I have actually
My
have a
secret
preference
identity,
for warm.
well, I may as well tell
but
you
today we're
here,
doing
sitting here
room
with
temp
you, Space Ghost. I'm
I had
really a
other things to prepare for.
transsexual, actually. I'm
Just
not
had
a
to do
woman at
slight bit of
all.
research, not a whole lot. Y'all already know
The
what
real
I'm saying.
identity is me.
Not
It's about as much me as you can get when I'm up on the stage.
I did a slight bit of
Do
research.
you have any superpowers that you use to stop the insanity?
You have the
female
audio
intuition, the most
for
powerful thing in the
whenever you're
universe.
watching in the
Yeah,
background
right.
on it.
You talk about women taking over the world.
do I?
Is this something I'll be forced to stop in the near future?
I just heard something about
Yeah, we're going to take over the world,
trans-
so you're going to have to battle us.
Susan, you have some
I know
food
it
in your
is.
teeth.
It is how
That's better.
How
You were
appropriate.
born in Australia.
Let me
Have you
figure
ever
out
been
how to
snatched
get
away
this
by a
sound
pack of
correct. My
wild
bad,
dingoes?
No, I escaped
bad.
the bush narrowly. Narrowly
Damn.
escaped the bush.
So, okay, so
I think we have some
if you can
footage
hear
of
me,
you escaping
then
the
what else
bush.
you hear
Roll
is,
that clip, Moltar.
Space Ghost Coast to
People
Coast.
are afraid to leave their homes.
Is the background internet intentional?
Yes and
It's
no.
yeah.
The deadly
Bush.
will strike next.
Yes and no.
Meantime, the
You said roll
hideous
the clip,
creatures.
Marco.
Actually isn't too bad.
Man, how
That's
appropriate.
frightening. What
Not
do your
only for
argenities
podcast,
look like,
but for
Susan?
today's actual
What
subject.
scares you?
Any
That's one of the most
freeze-dried,
Adult Swim things
yogurty,
that possibly
malty looking
happen.
thing. Anything
Man.
white and creamy
So I'm trying to see
freeze-dried,
if I
stay
could
away
actually
from it.
fix.
Yes, I certainly will.
fix the,
You must be in awe of my super colossal strength.
I'm in awe
realize
of any
everybody's gonna
man
be
that
able to
wears
hear.
wristbands like yours.
Can you see every painful detail of
You gonna
my
get the
muscular
new one,
physique?
I'm gonna have to cut it all the way. Tell me if you still hear it. Cause
And it's funny because you can only hear it through the stream.
you can. Like I wasn't even able to hear it. I don't know if y'all still do, but you know what? I'm gonna have to cut this all together. I want to be able to show.
I don't
y'all.
hear it.
Oh well, I just stopped it anyway. I want to be able to show y'all, what got this whole
No, I don't
thing
hear
going.
it now. Just letting you know.
It's all good. I cut it all together. I was gonna show y'all. But how appropriate, man. How appropriate.
Yeah.
Look, so that show that you just heard in the background, that was Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Before, back when Adult Swim was just a little glimmer in Mike Lazo's eye. Somebody who used to be, I guess, almost equivalent, just way better at it. Almost equivalent to what I do at Level 1 Gaming. He was sort of a content director in all ways, right? And as it turns out, they didn't want to get him no bread for it. They was like, you got to do your thing, do what you got to do. and Space Ghost was literally made out of assets that they already own. Of course, as you know, with Cartoon Network, all that old Hanna-Barbera stuff, you know, Scooby-Doo, the Flintstones, Jetsons, all of that, right? As you know, they don't ever just let nobody use the A-team. They don't let you use the great ones. You always got to dig in the crates. Always got to dig in the crates and find something like little known, right? So I don't know if y'all remember C-Lab 2021, but it was based off a show called C-Lab 2020, like one of those old 60s cartoons about during that time, right? Another one of those cartoons, a superhero joint, word to my East Coast people, superhero show called Space Ghost. And it was if you remember like the Herculoids, if you old like me, if you remember like that, like way back in that gap, back in those times where there was a main hero that were in some random world, and then there was like two sidekicks. There was usually a male and female sidekick, so running around with them, and or basically mini versions of them. Well, that was Space Ghost. Well, they decided to pull a Power Rangers and take clips from the show and make it a thing, right? This was during the big.
Is that literally this? Did they really just pull a straight up Power Rangers? Like, that's just how they made the damn show?
Basically, yeah. They stitched a lot of stuff together. And the funny part was, it was dope how kind of the influences came together, because they turned it into a late night show. This was, oh, hey, what's good, Doja? Let me, first of all, let me say what's up to the chat, man. I don't know how I didn't. I already know Flames was the first one here because he a G. What's good with you, Flames? Jay, you found me. What's good with you, man? Hustle and motivate. Obviously, out here hustling and motivating.
Hustle.
The marathon is continuing. Who else is Stray? What's happening, man? I appreciate you, man. I somebody said, by somebody I mean Sincere from Gold Chain Gamers, he was like, hey, man, you need to flip that Squid Game. I know you've seen the show. Turns out I saw the show and the soundtrack was fire, so I flipped Squid Game. Who else is in here, kiddo? What's good with you, Mr. Doja? Old head thump you on your forehead, one of the dope ones out here. So the influences I was talking about. Around this time, this is before, you know, any retirement. This was during the late night battle between Jay Leno and David Letterman. This is some legendary shit. Like,
are we aging ourselves?
We are. We showing, but it's a couple people in this chat right now that know what I'm talking about. So there was a time, in the time of, you know, Conan O'Brien, is as much as we see him as an old head, Conan O'Brien was like, he was a young one. He was a Padawan, by comparison. We talking Jay Leno is, I mean, forget him looking like Crimson Chin.
Crimson Chin looking like him.
Oh, Crimson Chin looking like him, man. He was Clef the Man Chin Wonder. And that was like the biggest joke about Jay Leno, right? But Jay Leno had them jokes back. We might know him now for being a car dude. Like, we might know him now for just having too much bread. But Jay Leno had some bread, and David Letterman, if you know that name, then you know exactly where I'm getting at when I talk about him, right? So they had this battle. That was basically the battle of the ratings, trying to see, you know, who could get the better guess, who could drive the highest ratings, right? And just that format as a whole, that format. Johnny, what's good with you, man? He said, "Oh no, not Crimson Chin."
The Crimson Chin.
Hey, it's funny because we about to talk about Johnny in a minute too. Like later on during this show, we're gonna get there. And I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna tweet it so y'all can understand what I'm getting at. But so this was some legendary shit, and as y'all might know, if you from that era, the late night talk show format was like a big deal. That was like right after all the primetime shows were done airing. This was after you put the kids to bed. This that off your head. This that. Oh, my bad. I got Kendrick mode going. This was like during a time where, you know, a lot of comedians got their first little bit of shine. A lot of artists got their first little bit of shine, believe it or not. And this was when a lot of like adult jokes would fly. So long story short, they put this together, and one of their first interviews, oddly enough, was some footage that they had from a Denzel Washington interview. And they asked him random questions, like not random questions, but they asked him questions, but they took that footage and they asked him different questions in post, and you know, they had him looking crazy. And that's kind of how Space Ghost Coast to Coast came together, right? And
What up, Jet?
Jet, what's good with you? What's good? Kiddo says Johnny Carson and David Letterman before that. Yeah, Johnny Carson, absolutely. But yeah, it turned into it was a big deal, and they kind of took that format and they mixed it with the resources that they had, which was the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. And so, they had they thought it was funny to have Space Ghost as the main host, right? And then they took Zorak. And I don't know if y'all remember like the Brack show or like the personality of Zorak, but he was a praying mantis alien, and he had the personality of a praying mantis alien. Everything he talked about was about being evil, was about killing something, was about like that. And they thought it was funny to have sort of, every host got their sidekick that, that's with the band. And they thought it was funny to kind of have the sidekick to literally want to murder the host. And as it
he was
turned
7 foot.
Yep.
He was giant.
So I have a bit of a timeline, and we're gonna kind of go down the timeline a little bit. Just say Space Ghost Coast to Coast was his joint, and Brack was his guy. So much so that they gave him his own show, and that shit was some of the funniest. Like it was like a Leave It to Beaver type thing. Fun fact, they was gonna call it Leave It to Brack, but I don't know. They ended up settling on the Brack show, and they really did have that Beaver. Like, okay, so I'm getting to what I'm getting at, and one of those subjects, one of those concepts that I'm going to touch on each time, pause, is going to be the fact that they pretty much put together fire content with damn near nothing and really pulled it off at a high level. So talking about the Brack show, I know a lot of y'all here actually know what the Brack show is, so I'm not going to explain it. But we will say, A, it was loosely based off Leave It to Beaver. And B, if y'all remember the family, the daddy was like a human, right? And he was tiny. He was little. Guess how he got like that? Fun fact. He was actually normal size to begin with, but they made the show in Flash. Yeah, don't look like it, do it. Yeah, they made the show in Flash. And something happened with his assets, have it shrunk, but they thought that shit was funny, so they just kept it like that.
I like the fact that, like, what is Brack? Is he like a space cat? Is that what he is? Like,
what is he? Some type of space alien dude? I need to look this up.
But, bro,
yeah, he was normal size.
Yeah, see, that's oh my, and it's funny because I'm looking at clips now. And just seeing his feet dangle off the kitchen stool, and then to see Brack, and then his mama, like literally his mama is just Brack with less sharp teeth and a wig, and then you got Zorak hanging out, rubbing his hands together because of course he's the praying mantis. I just these shows.
They kind of made her a little. I mean, I'm not gonna say it, but y'all see the clip.
Yeah, y'all see it. You know what it is.
Let me see if I can pop that on screen. I do have a little screenshot, and we're gonna see if we can show it. Oh, I forgot. Okay, so you may or may not go a little paused, but we're gonna see if we can work it out.
Got you.
Y'all know what Marion look like, man. He the king of freeze frame anyway. Oh, there we go. The Brack show. Right here. This was the family. So we had the little pops that was all tiny and stuff that used to be normal size. We got Zorak, the evil man, and we got Brack. I can't do his voice, but he sounded like that. Like kind of, you know what I'm talking about?
Dude.
And the mama sounded like a normal person, right?
Which was creepy. It was super creepy.
Yeah, it's crazy that in a show like that, it was creepier for things to be normal than for it to be, yeah. So, I'm just gonna read a little bit from the timeline. Early Adult Swim programming was made on a shoestring budget, often by volunteers. Let's put it like this: an entire season of a show could be made on literally half of the Simpsons budget. And granted, the Simpsons had a pretty fat budget, but for a whole thing to be made on half of that, that's talking about feeding people's families. That's talking about these are hours that's got to go on somebody's check. and a lot of somebodies at that. And for them to be able to make this in Adobe Flash, it don't even look like it. It's damn near like saying that they pulled that shit off on PowerPoint.
That exactly.
So, it says, let me get some movement on Baron again. There we go.
And folks, I just I'm here for the history lesson like everyone else. When Dallas is like just zoned in on something and it's a hot topic for him, I love it. It's a straight history lesson, and it's always so many nuggets. Like, I didn't know that. I would have never known that the Space Ghost and the Brack Show, or was it Space Ghost and the Brack Show?
It was
or
just
the
Space
Brack
Ghost.
Show.
It was no. I want to say it was just the Brack Show that was done in Flash.
Okay.
Space Ghost was done a lot cheaper on those same old animation cells.
Yeah, because it was pieced together. But keep going.
So it says Cartoon Network used their library of Hanna-Barbera. It's funny. I used to think it was Hanna-Barbera, but Hanna-Barbera animation, and created the first shows that appeared on Adult Swim. Mind you, Space Ghost Coast to Coast came long before Adult Swim showed up. I think it was like 90 something. This was like when we had the old cable box and like Cartoon Network's Channel 44. Yeah, this was back then. But Adult Swim happened to pop up in 2001, I want to say. The network's parent company refused to allocate any money to the original programming at first. In response, Cartoon Network creators repurposed animation from other shows to cut down on costs. So Space Ghost Coast to Coast is a prime example of a show produced on a limited budget. The writers of the show's original run were all executives at Cartoon Network who volunteered their time. Yeah, they did this for the free 99. They volunteered their time to create original programming. Yeah, that like free. So it was the first show. It was actually, another fun fact, the first original Cartoon Network show. So like it's the first thing made by Cartoon Network for Cartoon Network.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Out of all those cartoons, are you serious?
Yeah, the Hanna-Barbera stuff. It was eventually owned by them, and that's why they
Yeah.
could do it,
They bought it.
They bought it, but it wasn't made by Cartoon Network.
So if it wasn't, so we would. That's a wormhole in itself, because you got to think about the state of Cartoon Network as it is now. Like, if we just stopped here and just said where Cartoon Network is now, there's no way we'd have the extreme shows that we do now if it was not.
Gumball, regular show.
All of that.
Regular show was actually made for Cartoon Network. It was a rejected Cartoon Network show.
Steven Universe, all of that. Like, none of that.
And you know how
'cause
big
the level
Steven Universe is for the black community? You know how big it is for the LGBT community? Like, Steven Universe is
It's
a
ridiculous.
big deal. Yeah, so Mike Lazo, the dude I was talking about, the content director, it's basically the Cartoon Network's equivalent to that at the time.
Got you.
It says he created Space Ghost Coast to Coast as the first Cartoon Network original show. In 2001, when Adult Swim was launched as its own programming block, the show was moved to a new time slot. Obviously, late night to get right. Space Ghost Coast to Coast defined the experiment's tone and style and created a precedent for the channel's brand of risky, low-budget entertainment. The network repurposed animation resources from the 60s, as we know. It carried it through 10 seasons. They did this through 10 seasons and then were able to do 3 spinoffs just from Space Ghost Coast to Coast, because the Brack Show was a spinoff of Space Ghost. The 3 shows out of it. So, let's see. Most of Cartoon Network's original series were primarily released as one-time special programming. And you know what that is. They testing the waters. They just trying to see, if this is worth spending money on. And really, some of these came from just them okie doking the network.
Not the okie doke.
The
fried ice cream.
You will find throughout this whole thing that a good chunk of these shows were only even able to air because they made the network think it was going to be one thing and it turned out to be another. So
could you? Yeah, there's no way. Because I think about, God, what? It's gonna bother me. We'll get there. I'm talking ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you good. So this early programming that we're talking about, after Space Ghost Coast to Coast, You know, they made the whole Adult Swim section of the network was really made to like this is I think the beginning of them actually saving shows. And this is another thing they did a lot of. A, they had a lot of creative freedom and just let they people do whatever by okie doking the network and tricking them into thinking it was gonna be something else. And B, they took a lot of shows that were really good that wasn't getting much love anywhere else, and they basically saved the life of them. So it says here, Adult Swim's original lineup began with Cartoon Network's first original program, Space Ghost Coast to Coast. The show's risky presence and low-budget animation style did surprisingly well with an adult demographic and led to the creation of 3 spinoffs. That's Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, which was some of the funniest shit I've seen on TV. That shit was fire. The Brak Show.
Yep.
And fun fact, this is where we got Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Shake Zula, the Mike Ruler, the old schooler. Yeah. So let's see. Okay, so those shows were Cartoon Network's response to Space Ghost Coast to Coast. And once again, all surprising successes.
You know what? I'm gonna pause and just say, if it was not for Adult Swim, we wouldn't have had the Danger Doom album.
Mm-hmm.
And it just that was such a sick. But keep going.
Okay, so you know how I said this is where they started saving shows. Another fun fact. There's gonna be a whole lot of fun facts throughout this shit. Connected. Let me double check and make sure we not 2 separate videos. Please don't be 2 separate videos.
Oh no, I think we're still live. I think it's still kicking.
Bet, let's get it.
Still kicking.
So I should have fixed the problem. And we should be good. Okay, so that first show that got saved. You remember the show called Home Movies?
Yes.
Brendan Small, the little young dude that was a filmmaker, him and his friends.
And the soccer coach who was trying to get with his mama.
Yep. Yeah, so
is that what was happening? Yeah, he was the soccer coach, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he was a degenerate. He was like we see Carl on Aqua Teen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that dude, matter of fact, I should look this up in a second. We'll see in a minute because I know his voice sounds really familiar. Or if you don't mind, you can look it up. But his voice sounds really familiar.
I got you.
So guess they saved Home Movies. I don't know if you remember this, but originally that show premiered on UPN.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. We know what UPN was. It was H. John Benjamin. He also played. Oh, he looks very familiar. I'm trying to find what else he was in. Oh, he's Bob. I think he's Bob's Burgers. I think he's Bob.
He was Bob.
Yeah, he's Bob Belcher. Yeah.
Okay. So that's where I remember that voice from. Okay. So this show actually ended up being saved from UPN because remember UPN sort of locked itself in its pocket of being like the black channel.
He said the black.
Yeah,
Why you gotta say
because they had some bullshit on this. I mean, they had girlfriends, which was cool.
Whoa.
They had
UPN
girlfriends, which was
fire,
cool,
bro.
But they also had
We
they had girlfriends, which was good. It was a good show, and I even watched it, right? But they also had some bullshit like Homeboys from Outer Space.
Okay, now you're just being difficult.
These dudes flew around in a messed up Millennium Falcon called the Hoopty.
Bro. Okay, let's go down this list. We had Big Bad Beetleborgs, Malcolm and Eddie in the house.
Ooh, Malcolm and Eddie was in
Sister. We had One-on-One, the Parkers. Come on, Half and Half.
Okay.
Come on,
okay,
man.
I give you that. I rescind my statement. That show was some bullshit. But the rest of the lineup, they was doing their thing. Okay, I give you that. So yeah, but clearly all them shows you just named, right? Home Movies, demographic wise, that don't even fit. They had one black character. And she was a clueless kid in a white neighborhood. So yeah, I can see. But it was a good show and it deserved some shine. And Cartoon Network gave it that. So I can appreciate that. But here's where it gets good. So the next show that they saved that paved the way, this is what like Cowboy Bebop. Yeah. So y'all can't tell me that Spike Spiegel wasn't worth watching.
Because because what was it at episode 12? That was, I forgot, it was like the halfway point, and that's when it got the relaunch, right? They finished up through Adult Swim.
I want to say, let's see, paved the way for
Because I
mature.
remember there was a point.
Because we was getting Dragon Ball Z, we was getting Gundam, which was the most mature the anime got back then. They really put Gundam in there for us, for kids, because it was giant robots. But
But it was like teens killing each other going to war.
Yeah, make no mistake, Gundam is a very cerebral and very political show. Outside of just giant robots blowing shit up, it's a very political show that flew over everybody's heads back then. Okay, so it says here, Adult Swim paved the way for mature anime in America with the broadcast of the first anime series, Cowboy Bebop. Let me see. I'm trying to get this.
I know it had, because I remember there was a point where I don't know, what did that episode title card? Because at the end of every episode, see you Space Cowboy, or you're gonna carry that weight. I want to say it was like episode 13, or there was an episode where it said like the Bebop will return or something like that. I forgot what it was, but there was a question of whether or not it was making its jump back. I could be wrong. Let me see.
I'm gonna let you find this.
The series premiered in Japan on TV Tokyo from April 3rd to June 26, 1998, broadcasting only 12 episodes and a special due to its controversial adult-themed content. Yep.
Yeah.
Because around that was around the point of, was it Jupiter Blues? Or, God, I'm butchering the name of all the episodes. It's gonna bother the heck out of me.
And I think back then I might have actually paid attention to the names of the episodes.
Let me see, because there was a part 1 and 2. Where is it?
So while you finding that, I'll say,
Yep.
It was uncensored. The only really real changes was they kind of Americanized a couple parts that they felt like we wouldn't understand. But for the most part, it came up uncensored, right? And nobody was doing it. Literally nobody had ever done it. Like, especially with anime. Anime, like, we had Pokemon, Digimon, Dragon Ball,
Jupiter Jazz. Yep.
It was heavily, we had heavily censored anime, right? Even when Yu-Gi-Oh was a thing, they really, really, like, they changed a lot of the cards. Like, everything got censored heavily, anime involved, and they really didn't do that this time around. And I saw them do that with a few shows. Okay, so here they actually name a few. Let's see. Before then, it was widely believed American audience wouldn't feel comfortable with unfamiliar Japanese culture markers on television or mature cartoon entertainment in general. Good, they was wrong. Cartoon Network proved there was a demand for adult animated entertainment with the popularity of Space Ghost Coast to Coast. It was only a matter of time before they silenced the anime naysayers by airing Cowboy Bebop unedited. Later, it became commonplace to see intense violent shows like Witch Hunter Robin and Blood Plus in primetime slots of all things. Okay, so around this time, it's a cult classic thing. People like us who wake up in the middle of the night or who just didn't go to sleep at all because some of our favorite shows was going to show. And, intermittently, they show specials a lot, right? Those of us, we didn't need to be told that Adult Swim was on, right? But obviously,
You just knew.
Obviously, they need to do a little marketing, and it's Adult Swim. Guerrilla marketing is kind of their thing, and being weird is kind of their thing. So they took one of the most well-known characters from Aqua Teen Hunger Force, the Mooner Knights, and y'all know the famous Mooner Knight pose. You know the famous pose, right? They took some of those. They made like some LED Mooner Knights, and they just put them up strategically in different places so that people would wonder what that was, right? I don't know if y'all remember, but that caused an uproar. That caused a big thing. It shut down Boston. Literally shut down the city of Boston. Because it turned green. We just reconnected, so our shit is. Hey, we back in
Did it
this.
start